Hello and welcome to our first Ask Me Anything session with CX. My name is Ash and I'm the Global Community Content Manager here at Elementor. This new monthly Ask Me Anything session is going to be a regular occurrence where I sit down with members from the customer experience team and we discuss common requests from Elementor users. The topic of today's discussion is layout and structure with Flexbox Containers. I'm joined today by Igor and Latif from our customer experience department. So welcome, guys.
Hello. Hi, Ash.
Great to have you both
Hello.
here.
Hi, Ash.
Hey. Perhaps you could just take a moment to just quickly introduce yourselves.
Yes, of course. So my name is Igor. I have been in Elementor customer experience team in technical support tier 2 for the last 2 years, more than 2 years. In the last couple of months, I've been pivoting to a new position of public relations in customer experience. So you probably see me more and more on community side as well on social media.
Latif? Hi there. My name is Latif. So I am with Elementor technical support, the tier 2 level. I've been with Elementor for a year and a half, and I'm here to answer any question you have regarding the Elementor in general.
That's great. Thanks for being here, guys. I'm very excited to learn some stuff from both of you. To start today's session off, we're going to work through a few questions which were submitted prior to the show. And then we'll have time towards the end to answer some live questions. So if you have any questions about layout, structure, Flexbox containers, be sure to add them to the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. We'll do our best to answer them live. And if we don't get round to them live, we will respond to them in the comments section afterwards. Okay, so the questions that were sent in before the show. Let me just get the first one up. So it's from somebody called Henox, I believe, is how you pronounce this name. Why is the former section's internal typography setting no longer accessible on containers? So who's going to take this first one?
So let me take that one maybe. So let me show you here on my screen, for example. So what the question is, and it's very clear, is that if we are using sections and containers, before we used to have a way to add the, give me just a second. So we had a way to add a different typography color for the section. However, we found that that's not needed in containers. And let me show you one quick example. So if we were to go to Elementor settings, let's edit this page. It's a little bit slow today. Just a moment. There we go. Okay. So at the moment, I have Flexbox container enabled, as you can see, as a feature. And here in this sample page, if I go to the container and style, I won't see the typography. So if I were to now disable the Flexbox and save, now if I refresh this page, of course, first of all, there is not going to be any more this container, but I'm going to add a new section. Okay, and if I go to style, there used to be a typography tab. And here again, you could have added the text color, heading color, and so on. But why am I saying this is not needed? Because again, if you start adding widgets, the widget itself has a global style of the color, of course. And this is the best practice to use global colors for your whole design. So even if you, let's say, add a text editor, it will also have its own global color. So it will actually not use the section's typography at all. Again, this is best practice is not to use this, and that's why we decided not to include that in the containers. And also because you could have containers inside containers inside containers. You can really nest them, and it would just add unnecessary code that you can do on the widget level itself. So that's the reason we decided to not include it in the containers. That's it. Can go to the next question.
That's great, Igor. Thank you. Very clear and concise answer there. So next question is from Sean. When I paste a container using the builder's plus icon, the enlarged space is not used. Instead, the container is pasted towards the bottom of the page. So not really a question, more of a kind of statement, but...
Yes, I will take this question. I will answer this one. And okay, so here on my screen, I have a site where I'm working with containers. And the question that is referred to this is, let's say that we have one container, and then in here, I can just put a heading. And let's make this the minimum height to be a little bit larger. And I can, so if I copy this section and then I paste it here, we're going to see that it is coming in the bottom. Now I'm going to change this color to, let's say, black. Now, if I'm copying this one and I want to add this one on top of this by using the plus here, by clicking paste over here, that means that the text is going in the bottom and not on top. So we are currently working on this bug, on this issue to fix it. However, as a workaround, what we can do is if we click the plus and then we choose, let's say that we're selecting the direction column, and then we paste it here, that means that it's going to go on top. And the other workaround of this is, we were talking about this one that came in the bottom. If I drag this and put it on top, we can always use the navigator. So for this, in this case, the navigator can be very useful. So I hope this was helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you very much, Latif. Okay, we're flying through these questions. This is we're making great progress, which means we'll have lots of time for some live questions. I can see a few in the chat, so we'll get to those eventually. So the next question that I have here prepared is from Mark. And the question is, what are the best practices when using containers?
Okay, so let me answer that one. When using containers, of course, I'm going to just talk very shortly. The best practice is to use the least amount of containers possible. Let me just say that. Give me just a second. Okay, so if I am to add, let's say here, a new design, usually what you would do when you use sections and columns, you would add a new section and then you would add additional columns inside. However, you don't have to do that with containers. Let me just remove this one. So what you need to acknowledge and do is know the way that you want the items inside the container stacked. So do you want them to go from left to right as a row horizontal, or do you want them to go from top to bottom? So this is the default way that was actually the top to bottom, the column way was with sections. So if you would to add whatever inside it, it would just go underneath. So let's say I add the title, and then let's say I add another widget. Just a second. Let's say I add here text widget. It will just go underneath. And if you want to now add something on the right side, you are unable to. You have to add another container inside it. So what I would do is I would actually go plus here, add this container, let's say here, And now I have a container inside the container. Best way to, let's say, mark these is maybe just say this is going to be my title area. And now, if I want to add another widget or container on the right side, I actually have to switch the way this one is going. So instead of going down, I'm going to say go on the right, go horizontally, and I'm going to add another container next to it. So here it's giving me to add it. Oh, sorry. Okay, right here. Okay, just a second here. Just a second. Okay, there. Okay, so I have one container with a heading and a text that are going down. I can move it here, so it's on the left side. And now in this container, I can add. So what you would do before, you would add a container with an image. But the best practice in this case, let's say you would you don't need the container at all, because inside this main container, the direction is horizontal. So you can add a container next to a widget. So you don't need containers inside containers. You can, if it's only one widget, you can just add one widget. You can add multiple widgets on the right side. So let's say I can add maybe here an icon as well. Let's add in the middle. Maybe I can move it here. And then if I want, again, something, let's say I want a couple of icons stacked one under another, what I can do is, let me just maybe make this smaller. Okay, so you can see it. Okay, and let's say I want to duplicate this icon, but let's say I want them to go one under another. What I would do is I would add another container above. Okay, I can add it this way, sorry. Right here. And then stack these icons inside this container, and just make sure that the direction this container is vertical. And by default is vertical, so it's exactly what I want. So this way I have a container with going on the horizontal side and right side, and then have another one that's having widgets stacked vertically, and so on. So I think this is maybe, let's say, best practice, that you don't need too many containers. You can do it with much less this way, instead of using before sections and columns.
That's great. Really good use of the navigator there. One of my favorite parts of Elementor, for sure, for organizational purposes. Thank you, Igor. Okay, our next question, let me just get this one up, is from Anna. And the question is, how can I make fully responsive design in Elementor?
Okay, I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but there was actually one more question that I saw. It was about the nested elements.
Have I skipped one? Bear with me while I get organized. Just bear with me. Oh, I can't seem to find that right now for some reason.
Latif, do you know that one? We cannot hear you. Anyway.
We'll unmute you, Latif.
Okay.
The question is not showing up in my list.
Sorry about
Could you read the question? Could you read the question out loud first?
Oh.
Sorry. Please carry on.
Yes. So go ahead, Igor.
Yeah. So I believe there was a question about nested elements, the best practices of using nested elements, right? You had an example to show.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So as a one of the latest updates of Elementor was included the nested elements as a feature that we can enable that feature. So we can do that by going to Elementor, settings, and then features. And then here in features, we have nested elements. This is one of my favorite element, or one of my favorite update that came up in one of the latest versions. And we will say, so what can be done with this? Here is one of samples that I have built it, and it works perfect for, in this case, it is a restaurant where I have the menu, build it like item by item with price, image. So on the left side, I have the tabs, and then as you go down, you can see the items as they change. So another thing is that the way how I have built it, this is inside of tabs, I have used templates. So why I did that? It is because when I try to edit, let's say burgers, it is easier for me to go from the top bar where it says, what do I want to edit? I want to edit, let's say, burgers, and then I get to the burgers template. However, I'm going to go to the demonstration of how I did this, or what is the nested elements. So the nested elements, it is before it used to be tabs, which is also part of a tabs. And now, if I drag the tabs here, you can see that we have tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. Before it used to be with the sections only with a text widget, where you can pretty much not do whatever we have here. We didn't have so many options to modify. So what we added is that we can justify, or how do we want to have those icons or the tabs? Where do we want them? So we can keep them on top, we can keep them in the bottom, we can do them right, or we can do them left, and we can do like start or wherever we want it. So in my demonstration, I have that created on top. So if I go here, you will see that I have a multiple tabs, and then I have it direction left, and I have justify on start. Why I did that is because when you view the menu, you can still stay in the same, on top you have the menu says, instead of having this towards the center, you see those goes away. So, and inside here, I have added a template, which you can see, and I called that template burger. So when, let's say that I want to change prices for those, I will have to go edit that particular template and then just change price and the description here. And there is also multiple ways of using this. Another thing what can be done using this is you can also do like fully customized website using tabs. So this can be as a navigator. That it's going to be below tabs by only moving the body of the site, and not reloading the header, reloading the footer, and everything else. So this is one of my favorite part of containers, and I wanted to show this practice with you.
Nested capabilities are certainly a very exciting aspect that I'm sure we'll all agree is just going to get even more exciting as it's rolled out further into the product. Thank you very much for that demonstration, Latif. So we're going to go to our final kind of pre-sending question, which is from Anna. And the question is, how can I make fully responsive designs in Elementor?
Right. So I don't know how many people actually follow maybe other YouTubers. So Living with Pixels, Reno, he had recently published a couple of videos of fully responsive designs. When we're talking about fully responsive design, what does it mean? It can be a lot of things, of course. Of course, Elementor is responsive. It's responsive on mobile, on tablet, on desktop. But when you want to set, font sizes or width of the container, the main one, let's say the main section, what you would do is you would set the section or container in pixels, right? If it's boxed. Of course, if it's full width, it's going to use the full width of the screen, but it's not going to change if you set it to, let's say, a boxed view of 1140 pixels on desktop. So even if you have 4K monitor, it's going to look like that, unless you, of course, enable one of our other favorite features, which is the additional breakpoints. So what you can do now is so that's about the sizes. So what you can do now is you can actually set the size in percentages. I'm going to show that. I'm also going to show that you can actually change the font size depending on the screen size. So let's show that one first. So to change the font size, again, you have a mobile view, a tablet view, and desktop view. And by the way, if this looks different than your Elementor view, this is because I'm using the latest version with the new layout. So there is no more buttons on the bottom left. It's everything is pushed here. And if you ask me, it looks great. So talking about the font sizes, of course, if you add fonts, you can set different sizes for mobile, tablet, and desktop. But what if you want the font between, let's say, mobile and desktop to automatically adjust depending on the screen size? Because someone is using, let's say, a tablet vertically, someone is using horizontally, someone has a laptop with a smaller resolution, and they would all maybe use a tablet size that might not fit all of the design. So what you would do is, again, this is a tip that I used from Reno, and I'm going to pull up his page here that explains a little bit about these sizes, and I'm going to start adding these. So first of all, instead of using pixels, it's a best practice to use rem sizes, which is by default 16 pixels, unless you, of course, change it for accessibility. So let's say I'm not going to use all of the sizes. This is just an example he put out, which is a great one. I'm just going to use a couple of them. So to add these to global sizes, you would actually go to site settings, and then you would go to global fonts. So here we have the standard for primary, secondary text, and accent. And actually, I'm not going to change any of these. I'm going to add new custom styles. We can call them the way he calls them here. It really doesn't matter. And we can change, of course, the font family. So let me change this quickly to, let's say, Arial. But the most important thing is here, the size. So before, you used to have only pixels, rem m, viewport width, and now you also have this pen that you can actually add a custom size. You can add mathematical formulas of CSS and so on. But I'm going to use rem, and this is because it's for desktop. I'm in the desktop view right now. So for title 1, the biggest title, let's say I'm going to use for desktop for a rem size. Okay, that would be 4 times, again, by default is 16 pixels, so 4 times 16. You can it's a nice font, big one for let's say the first title. Let's go to the second title. Let's see here in these font sizes, you can see that actually he's using 3 rem size for mobile and 4 rem for desktop. For title 2, he's using 3 rem for desktop and 2.6 for mobile. So let's do whatever you want. So let's say title 2, desktop, again, rem is going to be 3. I'm not going to change the font right now. I'm just going to show the sizes, and let's add title 3. Let's just use the same for now. So 2.5. So again, RAM 2.5. While these are not responsive, what you would next do is you can go to, instead of desktop, you go to mobile, and then on mobile, you change the title 1 to 3 RAM, the title 2, I believe it was 2.2. So RAM 2.2, and then title 3, RAM, I believe is 1.8. You wouldn't do that for the body text. Body text looks nice when it's 1 REM, so you can just set it here like this. Looks nice on all devices usually. So what we did now is we added for the desktop and for mobile different sizes of these headings, let's say. But for what are we going to do in between? So usually what you would do is you would set another REM for tablet, but in this case, you're not going to do that. You're going to use this clamp formula, CSS formula that is actually going to use. So instead of RAM, I'm going to use the pen. I'm going to use this formula. So what this formula is doing is it's saying, okay, 3 REM is the mobile size, and everything in between will scale depending on the width of the viewport. So if it's, again, tablet used vertically, horizontally, it's going to scale. So it's never going to be an exact pixel value. The value is going to scale between 3 REM for mobile up to 4 REM that is set on desktop. So it's going to look very nice. So let's do the same for title 2. So just copy this clamp code. Oh, sorry. Go to the pencil, paste this. So again, this is new. Before you couldn't actually paste these values. There was no way to add the clamp function. Now you can do that, which makes our life much easier. That's it. We added the third one. Again, I'm not going to go to the other ones. I'm just going to show this. Okay, I'm going to go back to the editor, and I'm going to add 3 headings very quickly here. Okay, the first one, I'm going to change title 1, second one, style, I'm going to change to title 2, and the third one, title 3. Okay, so actually this, okay, so now if I publish this and go to see a preview, okay, so this is the desktop view. If you go right click inspect, you can actually change here the sizes. What I'm going to do is this, inspect this one, and then change here to responsive, so I can change the values. So you can see here, this is the desktop size. And as I go to the tablet size, as you can see, I am moving the size between mobile and desktop, and the size of these titles are actually changing in percentages. They are not fixed, as you can see here. They are clearly changing in percentages, which looks much better on different viewport sizes. So that's all I was going to show. Again, I would recommend checking our great YouTubers like Living with Pixels, that he created this table. Check out his videos, and also other YouTubers if you want to know more about this. That's it.
Thank you, Igor. I feel like we could just spend an entire live show talking about responsive settings. That was a great demonstration, and there's certainly lots to learn there. But Elementor certainly gives you the tools to efficiently do it. Okay, great. So I'm going to sift my way through some of the questions that have been asked in the chats, both on Facebook and on YouTube. So bear with me. What I'm going to do, guys, is the questions will come up on screen for you. Obviously, take a second to digest them and then provide the best response you can. So bear with me while I. Sorry, there's lots to scroll through, and I've lost my place. Where's the first question? Okay, so here we are. So Andy Higgins, so hello from Zimbabwe. I'd love to know why margins on containers behave differently than sections. Yes, we could use padding, but it's nice to have options.
Okay, so Latif, do you want to take this one?
Oh, I've just unmuted you, Latif. So if you were talking, we couldn't hear you. Oh. No, I can't unmute you, Latif, so you'll have to do it yourself. There we go.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So, perfect. Margins on containers. What exactly the behave? I know that there is a default padding of 20 pixels. So let me just share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so again, we are on the sections, and if I create a section here inside, I'm going to add a heading, and then if I go to the let's do an image as well under the heading. Then I go to the container. Here is the gap. If this is what you're referring, this is by default 20 pixels. We can do this like 0, and then we don't have that gap. And then the margins are usually set on the advanced tab, and here is the margin. So depends where you want to add the margin. We can add it, let's say, to the image, and then I can add it on top, margin top. It looks same as in the sections, as far as I know, and also on the heading if I do. And I can add like in the bottom, you're gonna see that it goes in the bottom, the margin. So I haven't seen that issue exactly. What are you referring on this? But from what I can see here, I don't see any difference. But this is where you can set the margins for the containers, which is in the same place, top, right, bottom, or left. So maybe I misunderstood the question, or if you can rephrase the question, I would try to re-answer that.
Thank you, Latif. Yeah, if we can have a more clarified question, that would be great. Maybe an example, but it's definitely worth spending some time at the start of any website build, configuring things like your default padding and stuff like that with containers. It's going to really help.
Exactly, and one thing that was mentioned, the gap between elements.
Question.
Usually,
sorry, I think my connection may have just dipped. I apologize if I interrupted. So let's move on to the. Oh, sorry, Igor. Yeah, please carry on.
About the gap between elements, a lot of people are asking in support about why is it 20 and how can I change that? Do I need to change it on every container? No, you don't. Why we said it like that? It's because we want to show usually when you are designing, you want to space out, of course, the widgets and the containers. You want to have a space between them. But if you're a designer who knows who only wants to use paddings and margins and don't want to have this gap between elements, you can always go to the global settings. I can maybe show that for a second, if that's okay.
Let me share your screen. There we go.
Okay. So as you can see here, when it says elements, why does it say elements? First, let me show that. So it says a gap between elements, meaning that these can be widgets or containers. It really doesn't matter. As you can see here, I have 3 widgets, and I have this gap between them, which is 20 pixels by default, okay? I can add additional, let's say, container in between, and again, the gap, and then let's say I add an image in this container, there's going to be a gap again of 20 pixels between this widget and this container, okay? So in order to set this to a different value and not to have to go through every container, you would just go to Preferences, Site Settings, and from here you would go to Layout, and here you can see gap between elements. The default is 20. You can change that. You can also set the container paddings, default ones. And what I was saying before about the fully responsive design, before you could only use pixels here. So let's say for desktop, you could only use like this, but let's say you want in percentages. Now you can actually use percentages, say, let's say 85%. So now doesn't matter which desktop size after the desktop size, even if you go to 4K, it will always use 85% of the available screen. So this is just a throwback to the question about the responsiveness.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I've got the next question lined up. So here we go. It's from Nicholas, familiar face. Hi guys, a common difficulty I see people having with containers is setting equal heights. Can you give an example how to align content inside inner containers so they appear as equal height?
Right. Do you want Latif or me?
Go ahead, Igor.
Okay, because okay, so what I know that is that we have this option now in the editor that you can actually use equal height. Can we show the screen? Okay, cool. So let's say I add container with 4 containers inside, and let's see how these are stacked. Okay, that's good. So let's say I want to add a heading, and then I want also an image underneath. Okay, much better. So always use Navigator. And let's say I have, so people usually have issues with this with posts, but let's do it this way as well. So let's add text editor. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, right click, duplicate. I'm going to remove the other ones because I just needed them to see how to look, and I'm going to duplicate this 2 more times. There we go. And let's say this text here is, there's this much text, okay? And let's say the title here has has 2 rows, okay? So it's much bigger, and now it looks awful, right? It's not what you want. So what you want is actually to have equal height here, okay? So what you can do is, I believe when you go to the container here, additional options, just a second. Okay, so one thing you can do is you can set the height of the container. So minimum height, for example, and then inside this container, you can set the justify content. So you can space them out this way or other ways, and you can copy this style. So this is one way of doing this, and paste style on all of these. But again, it might not look exactly what you wanted. So instead of that, let me see. Okay. I believe that we can have Just a second. Okay, so in this case, what you can do is you can actually maybe group these in different containers. So in this case, so let's say I add another container here this way. Just a second. Container. Okay, and then I can group the heading with an image. Okay, and then I can leave the same height here. Just a second. Okay, and then I can say for this one, I want this gap, and then I can duplicate this. Doesn't look very nice now, but it will soon. Now, oh, sorry. Right click. Let's copy. Just a moment. And let's paste it here. Okay. Now we have this container here. If I push it here, you can see the title looks like this. And if I sorry, I pasted something completely different. And I love when this happens on live show. Let's go this. Wow, just a moment. There we go.
It's the JSON file. It's
yeah.
in the clipboard instead of the text.
Differently, right. So let's just do this one more time. So paste. Okay. Just lost my navigator. There we go. Copy. Paste. It's not giving me the option here. Just a second. There we go. Okay. And now if I move this up, you can see the height is okay. Now if I have two rows, it's going to be on the same level. Now there is a much better option if you are using, let's say, posts widget. I'm not sure if I have posts here, but let's do that very quickly. You can use loop builder, you can use posts, which doesn't matter. Let's use loop grid. Okay, and posts, I'm not sure if I have any posts here. I cannot show now without the loop.
Okay, that's fine. It's yeah, there is obviously the equal height option within the within the loop grid there.
Yeah, exactly. There is a equal height, and then that area.
That's great. Thank you, Igor. Let's move on to the next question. So I did have it ready. Here we go. Here we are. So Harbor Dog, how do I make the margin and padding to be percentage by default and not pixels?
Okay, so I will take this question, and I'm going to share my screen regarding this. So here we go. Currently, again, I am on the empty page. So if I drag the container, then I go to the advanced part. I see that we have pixels on the margin and we have pixels on the padding. So one way that came up in one of the latest Elementor updates, it is saved as default. So if I change this from pixels to percentage, and also these pixels to percentage, I'm going to hit update, and then I am saving this to save as default. So this is saved as a default now. Now, if I go and I drag the container again, I go to the advanced. Now we have the margin and we have the padding as a percentage instead of as a pixels. Now, if we want to revert back for some reason to the pixels, we have to do the same process. We go to the margin first pixels, and we do the padding as well as the pixels. We update it first, and then right click, and we save this as a default. Now, if I come and I drag the container again, we go to the advanced. Now it is back to pixels. So I hope this was the question and this makes sense.
That was great. Thank you very much, Latif. So unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. Thank you to everybody that came along to watch these demonstrations, everybody that asked a question, and most of all, thank you, Igor and Latif, for your expert knowledge. We will continue to monitor the questions and we'll respond to as many of them as we can. So please continue to ask questions, even if you're not watching this live. Our next AMA with CX will have a different topic. So if you would like to suggest what that might be sure to add your suggestions to the chat below. And thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye now.